So, good morning, Nick, and a good day to our viewers in India and other parts of the world. A warm welcome to Nick Papageorge to this episode of DLive.in podcast. Nick is into endurance sports over the last 4+ decades. He has been a triathlete and has two Ironman titles to his credit. Being an engineer and having a cause effect mindset has led him to explore some myths in sports nutrition. He has applied the same principle in his personal life, achieving improvements in his metabolic health as well. Aside, aside, there's some interruption. Not too sure if, yeah. Cool. Okay. So aside, he's a linguist and speaks, understands Hindi real well. So once again, Nick, dlive.in के इस एपिसोड में आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है. So today's topic is on myths in sports nutrition. But before we begin, a quick info for those watching this podcast. This is not a medical or nutritional advice. People are requested to take the guidance of their doctors and low-carb nutritionists. There are also no financials attached to this session. DLive.in is a community platform for low carbs. It's a platform for those suffering from diabetes, PCOS, obesity, and other metabolic syndromes. DLive.in has 250 plus success stories and 1200 plus low carb Indian recipes. DLive.in was founded and developed by Anup Singh, who's an engineer from IIT Roorkee. And your host for today is Yogesh Dixit. I'm a member of DLive.in and I'm a low carb coach, guiding people with metabolic syndromes and weight issues, helping them to adapt eating right as a lifestyle. And I'm much excited to understand from Nick on today's topic. While lately endurance sports has gotten a big momentum and becoming mainstream in India, understanding applications of low carb and myths around sports nutrition from an expert like Nick will immensely help many budding athletes. So without any further ado, let's begin today's session. So Nick, can you please tell us about yourself and what was the trigger for you picking endurance sports as a hobby?
Yes. Okay. First of all, thank you very much. It is a privilege and an honor to be a part of this. And I have followed DLive during my studies, Twitter readings, and it's amazing the work you're doing. No, really. A bit about myself. Yes, I'm 57 years old. I'm Greek heritage, so it's good. Dimitris is there, and but I'm born and brought up in Kenya, in East Africa. Yep. And so maybe that's why. And I went to an English British colonial boarding school. So the multicultural part has come from there. And maybe I was born in 1964. I'm 57. Maybe that is why I got introduced or enthusiastic in running. 1964 was the year Kenyan runners won the first medal in the Olympic Games. So,
yeah.
Further to that, I think it's important, like you said, these are my own personal thinkings, readings. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. And I also have no cutbacks. This is free of charge, just chatting.
Yeah. The immense knowledge and experience that you have over the last 4 decades definitely would help, and the kind of experiences that you have with low carb and the kind of supplements or lack of that you administered or basically used or not used, right? I mean, that definitely would help our viewers as such. So can you please highlight some of your key athletic events? I mean, we were going through your the kind of content that you shared, and that was just mind-blowing. I mean, if you can just share a few of those, that will be really helpful for you, our viewers.
Yeah. I think fun also to begin with. I'm not elite athlete. I'm just a chortle like all of us. But I did do a little bit of thinking about it, and actually the first 4 decades. Yes, it's right. The first marathon I did was this one, and this, I don't know if you can see it. This is 1980.
1980.
Wow. I was actually 16. It's the marathon. Yeah, the marathon to Athens. So it's the original. I was living in Athens. So that was, of course, age 16. Quite. That was actually epic. But those days, no Facebook, no posting, no nothing. You just did it.
Yep.
Then, and I've done 2 Ironmans. I've done lots of multiple half Ironmans, marathons, long distance riding, cycling, 300 kilometers.
Yeah.
endurance swimming, 21 kilometers. So a bit of, yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
all in a humble manner. I've never tried to win. I just want to improve myself.
Yeah. For most of us here, right? I mean, in this particular podcast, I think it must be like even beyond imagination. I mean, so probably for us, this is more than an elite athlete. But we understand. We got your point, Nick. And then 1980 is amazing because I think some of the viewers probably haven't even possibly born. I mean, whoever watching this particular podcast, they might not have even born. I mean, they might not have gotten to understand the intricacies, like you mentioned, the Facebook and those kinds of things, social media, and then the kind of knowledge that is available at anyone's disposal. I mean, that was obviously not there. So yeah, we definitely relate with that. What kind of food regime that you followed around the year, or you having following, let's say throughout the year, and typically during your event days? Is there any difference, and what is it? Just in case if there is any difference during your event days as such in terms of your food.
In up to events, I mean, now absolutely no difference. Whatever I eat every day, I eat the same.
Yeah.
But in my high carb days, we'll get to it. In my high carb days, I used to carb load.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is part of the myth that I believe.
Yeah. No, absolutely. In fact, the follow-up question, the next question was on the same lines, because during 80s, I mean, whatever kind of knowledge that we have been gathering, most of the athletes, I mean, not even 80s, I mean, till probably quite recently, people have been loading themselves with a lot of carbs, glue, and those kinds of things, and glue, those kinds of things. So just wanted to get an understanding. Have you gotten started with high carbs? And if yes, then what made you shift to, let's say, something like a low carb, or maybe low carb and high protein, high fat, that kind of a diet? So first is like whether you got started with high carb as a consistent regime, and then what was the trigger to get converted or transformed into low carb as such?
You see, actually, I'm fortunate enough in that I'm so old, because when I did this marathon here, and this was actually my second one. I did one before with actually as part of a school event.
Okay.
Those days there was just water. There was nothing else. There was water. There was
Water.
nothing else. And we managed, and we managed, and like I said, there was also no Facebook, and there was no marketing behind all this
Correct.
concept. But then in the late 80s, I started doing triathlon, and I think that's when it started. At least that's when I became aware of the myths that started coming. Yeah.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
No. And I mean, if I some of the startings of the myths, I mean, it was, and they were supported by white papers and articles and peer-reviewed documents. No, it was carb load. It was well known at the time that you had glucose in your body for 2.5, 3 hours events. Post that, you got depleted. You hit the bonk. It was known as the bonk, and so there were two options, and this is what they were claiming. There were two options: either you supplement during the race, you eat constantly.
Okay.
Or prior, you carb load.
Yeah. The pastas, the rice, the bananas, the sneakers, the isotonics, the Gatorades. I mean, all of them.
And on top of that, there was also you mentioned it, the isotonic drinks in the late 80s. The isotonic drinks, that was another myth. I mean, that we would dehydrate within half an hour running or whatever. So we were told to drink every 15 minutes.
Okay.
15 minutes, you have to drink a big cup. Otherwise, you dehydrate. And this is,
Yeah. So I mean, I understand that you also follow Professor Tim Knox, right? Timothy Knox. I mean, you basically look at him as probably a father figure in terms of you getting converted to, let's say, correct, low carb as such. So because why it came to my mind is a lot of people, including him, I mean, at his stature, I think most of them, they were doing carb loading, right? I mean, in terms of their sports or athletic career. And then somewhere, I think a person at his stature probably came across a situation when they started getting an understanding, while I'm doing so much in terms of my physical activity, athletics aspects, I'm still coming across situations of being metabolically, this thing compromised as such, right? So, and that probably got a trigger. I mean, that probably got started with this particular trigger towards or movement towards, let's say, low carb. I'm not too sure whether you started following Professor from that standpoint from there or sometime later?
Actually, I started following him around about this book. When he wrote this book, which is it's a fantastic book, very difficult to read. Right. It has taken him 30 years to write it, but it is, yeah, it's. I mean, I noticed it again this morning, and it took me a long time to read because it's very technical.
Yes. But
the bottom line is that it was the marketing of the isotonic drinks by Gatorade that they wrote some papers. Yeah, they wrote some papers that it was important to hydrate, and it was so as to improve your performance to be hydrated. And that sounds logical. Yeah. But there's nobody in the Western world, nobody in the world, apart from if you're in an accident in the desert, that dies of dehydration. You cannot die of dehydration. Yeah. So it was a spin of what was ultimately sugar drinks. There's a little bit of salt in these isotonic drinks, but nowhere near enough. Yeah. And they cause overhydration, which can be fatal, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, water definitely is important, but all the other things which are then included, right? I mean, like maybe the sugar and basically whatever other forms of sugar, that was definitely a lot detrimental. I mean, we will come back to your journey, but I think recently, while having 4 decades of sports endurance as a hobby or maybe career as well, you came across a situation when you basically came across an accident and there was a hip injury and you had to be getting into basically a rehab for a very long time. So what was, I mean, if you can narrate, because that's probably the most interesting aspect of this particular discussion, because at this age, coming across this kind of an injury and then getting over that. So what was your experience? What all things and what kind of role the food played in terms of coming across the recovery as such?
Well, first of all, I was on low carb for the last 8 years. I've been on low carb. But 2020, November 2020, 2nd November, I had an accident. It was actually, there was an accident on a bicycle, cycling training to work. And I broke my pelvis.
Oh, gosh.
And I was operated the 9th of November. Now, and I ended up so I was in hospital and I was unable to walk for, I think, at least 6 weeks. My first baby, I did 2 steps on Christmas Day, so like 6-7 weeks later.
Okay.
I am 100% sure that my low carb dietary preferences have facilitated in the improvement and the rehab. Right. There was there's less inflammation. There's far cleaner. I'm sure about it. Of course, I also did a lot of training. I did a lot of what I could do. What the physios told I had to do, I did. But
right. So I think we'll probably dive a little deeper in terms of low carb, because some of them listening or watching this particular podcast may not quickly occur to them in terms of what kind of, and being such an endurance athlete. I mean, what low carb means to you? What is your, I mean, probably the question that we had earlier. Throughout the year and even during your event days, what kind of food that you usually have, and how it is helping you? Like you mentioned about very low inflammatory condition that you had, and that helped you in terms of recovering really, really fast. So what is the food regime that you're on for the last 8 years?
Well, I think for me, it was a bit of a journey. I started gradually, independent of Tim Noakes, actually. It was some other researchers, Phil Mathatona and Stephen Finley, that talked about endurance and low carbs, and ultimately then health. And then Tim Noakes came with the Professor Tim Noakes with the real meal revolution, I think it was, and then became more and more, and I started reading about his improvements through low carbs. But for me, I mean, I started gradually, so I did not have this sudden what do you call it?
Low carb.
Low carb. Yeah. And where you actually have withdrawal symptoms. Your body is missing sugar. And you have headaches, and you be sick, you have fever, you not fever, but weak. No. So it was gradual for me. And then ultimately, I mean, then it moved a little bit further to like fasting, or not necessarily fasting, but I'm just not hungry, so I could miss a meal. And it is, for me, it is predominantly animal based. And I know the population in this meeting is mainly Indian, But
Yeah.
nevertheless, it is
Okay.
mainly meat-based, but including cream and butter and ghee. I make my own ghee.
Awesome. Okay.
And yeah, and yeah. So
Yeah. So this is mainly, and you also mentioned about the frequencies, right? I mean, you obviously probably have only 2 meals, or sometimes you even can do with, let's one meal, and what that 1 meal or 2 meals consist of mainly the meat and a lot of dairy products, and some of those are actually homemade as well. That is what you
yeah,
mentioned, like ghee definitely you make it at home, right?
yeah.
And just curious, right? I mean, where for the first time you came across ghee? Is it your roots in Kenya or sometime later?
It's actually, I think, my roots in Kenya, because we also had lots of Indian friends, and I'm sure we were invited. But it was actually a colleague that showed me how to make it, and so
Yeah, so that's what I think Shashi he refers to this quite a few times, that ghee is a gift of India to the
yeah.
world. Yeah. So and I think, yeah, all of us probably would believe in that. It's definitely a great gift to entire population. Yeah, yeah.
I also have to add something else, actually, and this is for all you guys that are eating ghee. I will never, ever, ever buy it again. And I'm used to buy expensive ghee.
Yep.
When you make it yourself, it is something completely different.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Who knows
So,
what is in the bought ghee in Denmark? I don't know. In the Pakistani shops.
okay, okay. No, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, we have been making, most of us, right? I mean, most of the individuals, they try and make ghee at home, because that is altogether a different story when you get it
Yeah.
from outside. Yeah, so this is great. And then uh, other thing is about any sports nutrition, right? I mean, or supplements that you came across, because this is probably an important topic of this discussion. So during the early phases when you're on high carb, were you consuming any supplements, and then what changed, if at all anything changed, after you got shifted or transformed to a low carb kind of a person?
Mm.
So two different stories. One is while high carb, any supplements, and on low carb, any supplements as such.
I think when let's do the easy part first. On low carb, absolutely no supplements. I eat a lot of salt. I take a teaspoon or a quarter or half a teaspoon of salt almost daily.
Okay.
But just normal salt.
Mm-hmm.
When high carb, and reading all the marketing, and I call it marketing because that's what it was,
Yeah.
and all the research, and I was taking protein shakes and the isotonic drinks and the tablets of this and that, and the electrolytes and the and used to take multivitamin pills.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Right. So have you, like after shifting to low carb, any situation that you came across that you're hitting a wall kind of a situation, right? Because you're not carb loaded, and that's how you're basically completely falling down on the ground. I mean, in any situation like that, or any colleagues of yours who have shifted to low carb, are you seeing anything on those lines, which usually the athletes are like really worried about? If they can't even think of moving from a high carb to low carb kind of a diet, because they have a lot of this misunderstandings, misconceptions, that if they move, they might come across some of these situations. So most of the people that I know, I mean, I'm not very well connected with very elite kind of groups, but the kind of people, the kind of levels that they are, they're like at certain levels, but still they are like completely against using low carb as a lifestyle, because they have some of these fears in their mind. So you want to elaborate anything on those lines?
Yeah, I think just to follow up on your comment there, I think you could claim that they are carb addicted or sugar addicted, because that's what it is.
Absolutely.
I never, I mean, up until 100-kilometer run or 6 hour, 9 hour swim in cold water, I do not get what was called the bonk at the time. I do not hit a wall where I lose all my energy. I'm not saying I don't get tired. I get tired, of course, like everyone else.
Right.
But I finish 6 hour run and I come back and I'm not hungry.
Awesome.
And the body is just ticking over like it's supposed to do. It's still burning some fat and it's producing the glucose it needs and the ketones, and it's just ticking over perfectly. Absolutely. Whereas in the old days, when I was on the high carb, I would come back ravishing, like really hungry. And the marketing used to suggest or tell us that you have got a window of, I don't know,
whatever.
Pata nahi. 20 minutes to
Yeah.
replenish your glucose. So
Yeah.
I used to eat jam sandwiches.
Oh,
You know,
gosh.
white bread, no butter, nothing, and jam.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I
Right.
was cheap or poor. Otherwise, protein drinks, which was basically just sugar. It's
Yeah.
just sugar.
Sugar. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Yep. Yep. Right.
And yes, you get a little bit of an uplifting. But then you get tired again, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be a yo-yo kind of an effect when you're on high carb. You load sugar, you load glucose, and you'll feel elated. You'll feel great for some time, and again it will go down, and yeah, you will probably come across something like an hypo. Yeah. I mean, I would just like to narrate one small experience. I'm doing a good amount of experiments at a very low level, right? But one of the things that I've done is like I was fasted 60 hours, water fasted 60 hours, and I walked for around 10 odd kilometers, right? And I was absolutely fine. I in fact continued my fast beyond those 60 hours after having my 10K walk also. So I've been doing bits of this, not to a great extent, but fasting is something that I used to do a lot, not these days. I mean, for some other reasons. But I was coming to that. I mean, you also referred to fasting. So, and I understand that you do probably weekly once an OMAD kind of a lifestyle, 1 meal a day kind of a lifestyle, definitely, or 24 hours kind of a fast, definitely that you do. So how it is fast, how it is helping, and how do you basically arrange this or line this up around your, let's say, event days? Have you ever ran or let's say, I mean, participated in any event while fasted for maybe 18 hours, 20 hours, 24 hours, something like that? Just in case. Yes.
Well, we all know the word breakfast is to break the fast.
Fast.
So, you know, I don't do 24-hour fasts before an event, but most events start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I do not eat in the morning. So I eat whatever I eat at 6, 7 p.m. in the evening. Yeah. And in the morning, I'll usually actually have a cup of coffee with some cream.
Awesome.
And then I do the event, and that can be 6 hours running.
Running. Oh, great. Wow.
And it's amazing. Or swimming. I did this event swimming, and I have to tell you the story. Right. It was swim in a lake, and there was some stops that were mandatory to come on land so they can check you that you're okay and stuff. And I'm not a great swimmer, but I can swim. Yeah. Yeah. And people that are better than me, they were coming in. Yeah. And they were going to the food stalls, and there was cake and Coke and biscuits and protein bars, and they were eating. Right. And I came up, and the person looked at me, and I said, I'm okay. So I just went into the water. Right. So I beat people that were far better than me because they had to eat. Yeah. And, you know, it takes 5 minutes to eat, come on land and walk and talk. And Right.
So, I mean, sorry, I would just like to relate a situation that you might be already knowing. You visited India and you have a good number of friends here also. But many people who run regularly every single day or maybe over weekends and things like that, who are like kind of an enthusiast runner, what they do, it's like rewarding themselves after their run. They usually, or cycle, I mean, bicycling, right? I mean, they usually biking. What they do is like they go to a small eatery and have the chai that you mentioned in one of your contents, that you can have chai, but you shouldn't be having it with sugar. So they load themselves with that sugary tea. They have idli or poha, some of those very high carb kind of foods. As kind of a reward after completing their run, could be 5K, 10K, whatever, 20K. But this is what usually they do. And they find it to be absolutely fine, right? I mean, rewarding for them. Do you want to reflect on that typically for an Indian population, just in case if you have any?
I can do it for Indian population because yes, I have friends, but also for the Danish population. When I started triathlon here, we used to go, you know, Sunday ride was minimum 100 kilometers. We would ride, we would come home, and we would be with family. Yeah. Nothing else. Okay. Today, Sunday rides are, you know, we're older, so 60, 80, 100 kilometers with mandatory stop at the bakery for coffee. But it's never coffee. It's not coffee. Yes, it's coffee, but it's also Danish pastries. Yeah. And the thinking is it's to reward ourselves. We've earned it. Yep. And I skip it, you know, I just continue. This is fundamentally, in my mind, I don't need it. For what? I don't need it. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So what's your take on this, right? I mean,
probably a little deviating, right? I mean, but I just want to get in your understanding, someone like at your level, is it something to do with mindset? Like, I mean, I don't need this. I mean, that's the exact thing that is to be taught to self, what my body needs and what my mind probably likes to have. They're two
Yeah.
different things. So
Mm.
is it the change in the mindset, the paradigm shift in terms of thinking, thought process is required?
I
What
think
is the need
it's a
versus what
combination.
is the want?
It's a
Yeah.
very
The need.
interesting question, because very, very interesting question, because there's a lot of things. I mean, it's the culture is changing. The
Yeah.
culture is in the old days, we would run 20 kilometers, and that was it, finished. Drink
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
And we would ride 100 kilometers, but now the culture is changing. It's a cultural thing, you know. If you don't stop at the baker, you
Yeah.
are unsociable.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a part of the culture. I also think it's the marketing, you know, to push the sugar
Right.
because you need it for your body.
Yeah.
Sugar is sweet. It's a reward. I
Reward.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Right. Right. One aspect probably we missed on touching upon. So while you were like for a very long period of time, like from 80s to or I mean 2013, you were on high carb kind of an regime, right? So have you come across any metabolic health issues or any particular triggers that those were like a little? I mean, some of your parameters are deranged. Anything like that you come across, just in case, if you'd like
no,
to share
no.
that.
I mean, I've been fortunate in that I've not come close to. I mean, I've more or less weighed what I weigh now all my life. But I know that had I continued with the high carb, I would have started around about, when was that? It's 8 years ago, so it's like late 40s. I would have started putting on weight, only 500 grams a year,
Okay.
and then 1 kilo. It would
Okay.
have come slowly, slowly, slowly. I mean, everyone in my club,
Yeah.
my age, it's happened. I can see, you know, we've been in the club for 30 years, and they are putting on weight just a little bit at a time,
Yep. Yep.
which, by the way, is the same as all the population, not only the
Yeah. Yeah.
athletes.
Right. Right. That's very
And,
true.
and it
Yeah.
sort of and it sort of becomes, yes, that's normal.
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, the normalcy is changed, right? And even I don't want to take names, but there are experts, including on the medical side. They are giving some, or at times the medical science is probably not aligned to what should be done, right? I mean, and then probably the kind of advices those are coming from the experts are at times a little deceiving to people in terms of even people starting on any medication, right? I mean, we can probably park that aside for the moment, but coming back to your sport endurance sports career, what does training look like? I mean, in terms of you training for triathlon or maybe Ironman, what used to be your training schedule? How hard it was, and how hard it was because you were like on low carb as compared to the other peers of yours who were like doing high carb, this thing. I mean, regime as such.
I don't know. I think traditionally I've always trained less than my colleagues.
Colleagues. Okay.
I don't know. I'm not more talented. It's nothing like that. It's yeah. But I don't know. Like now, after my injury last year, I'm training 5, 6, 7 hours a week in running only. Very little bit of cycling, but running only. So that's 50, 60, 70 kilometers a week. That's yeah. And again, without having to constantly eat. So yeah.
That's a blessing, right? I mean, that
Yeah.
particular feeling, not having that feeling of constantly being hungry is an amazing thing. I mean, people who go through that phase, I think they can immediately get to understand how it helps. Yeah,
It is,
because
you're right. And I have to point this out. It is an amazing feeling to complete
yeah,
a long event, 9 hours swimming, for example, very cold weather, water, and come in and you realize you're not even hungry. Then, you know, have shower and stuff and maybe eat some nuts, come
yeah,
home maybe 2, 3 hours later and still
right,
not like really hungry, not
yep,
famished.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. Okay. So a few other things, right? I mean, in terms of your VO2 max, let's say the heart and muscle recovery, any joint injuries, right? I mean, that usually the athletes come across. So I think we were discussing about some supplements. Anything that probably you remotely even thought about that I should be starting with some of these supplements for, let's say, my VO2 probably is not adequate, or I mean, VO2 max is something that needs to be improved, or my joints probably have started maybe hurting, paining, aching. Anything on those lines that you probably have thought about?
Again, going back to the animal products, I make bone broth occasionally. You know, if bone broth, get some bones, then I make bone broth, also from chicken. But a sports drink that I do drink in the winter when it's very, very, very cold. If I've been out maybe 3 hours cycling in sub-zero temperature, so it's very cold, wind, or maybe 2 hours run, but only in the winter it's cold. I make golden milk. So turmeric milk. So it's milk and of course ghee and turmeric. And also a bit of cream. I put extra cream, but I don't put sugar in. I put salt in. And that is warms me, and I feel that is very, very, very good. So there you go.
No, absolutely. And this is really interesting, right? And everyone probably would have all these things available readily at their home. They don't have to be spending tons of money on supplements and things like that. And B, this is definitely helpful because you probably, after doing so many different things, you probably haven't come across the situations that any other athlete, most likely they start coming across in their 40s. Like in terms of joint injuries, in terms of endurance, right? The sports performance and all those kinds of things. So this is a testimony to basically start looking at the things which are available around us and which are really, really effective, right? As compared to getting some bottle products and then completely relying on those as such. This is an amazing thing. And what kind of benefits? We have been talking about some benefits, like let's say you not getting a feeling of being hungry and other things, but probably the other question that I had about metabolic aspect. So have you been checking any your metabolic parameters, and then are you seeing any positive aspects in those during, let's say, last 6, 7, 8 years, that after getting converted or transformed to LCHF, your metabolic markers have improved or anything on those lines?
No, I don't test. I used to test cholesterol because it was tested at work, and then I subsequently did it sometimes, some years, and then through the readings, I figured out my triglycerides are fine, and whatever the cholesterol figures say, both the bad one, the LDL, and the good one, the HDL, they're just figures like the size of my shoe. It makes no difference. So I forgot about it. I don't even think about it.
Okay. That's interesting. And the other aspect is about how do you cope up with your peers or colleagues or the club that you mentioned in the content that you shared? Is it like you're probably only one amongst the few who have adopted low carb, and there is probably a bit of friction or some situation that you usually come across while getting along with that particular group or club, something like that?
Of course, you become sort of a leper. Like Saturday morning runs, there is run 10, 12, 14 kilometers, and then there is bread, Danish buns and coffee, and it's with jam and I don't, if I'm running with them, then I don't eat, and then they look at me and but I'm strange. What can I say?
Right. So that's a usual feeling. Probably some of us low carbers always do come across, like being a little sideline at times. Not to get into that particular zone or space, but it do happen because everyone else is doing in terms of food a lot different. And then when sorry, you're saying something.
No, sorry, please continue, because
no, so that's what you're basically standing out, and there is this kind of an feeling of missing out, right? FOMO effect can be kicking in, and then someone who's probably a little weak-minded may feel a lot different, that they are not part of that group because they're not doing high carb and they are on low carb regime and things like that. So that's where I was coming from. Nothing else.
Okay, you're right. There is the peers that are influencing us, of course. But the very interesting thing about this is it is a paradigm shift, because 50 years ago, all athletes in the early 70s and in the 60s, they did not carb load. They didn't. And they were all slim. Everyone was slim. Also, just middle-aged athletes. We were all slim. But since then, everyone's been putting half a kilo, 1 kilo on, both athletes, like I said before, and also the general population. So why should it be so strange? I mean, we're only eating real food. It's nothing strange.
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, that is a great message for most of our viewers or whoever is watching this particular podcast. I think one thing probably I missed in terms of the training schedule or aspect, what I recalled looking at the content or our few interactions, that you're not hitting the gym, right? I mean, you're not going to the gym. You're doing probably some workouts at home, probably using kettlebells and things like that. But so, do you want to basically throw some light on that, your training aspects?
For me, I mean, I enjoy most running and cycling, and I do kettlebells also for fun and push-ups for fun, but it's not a strict thing. Okay. Going to the gym for me, I can drive 5 kilometers to the gym. I can run 5 kilometers on the treadmill. Then I can drive 5 kilometers back. What it makes no sense. On top of that, I have to pay a subscription.
Yeah.
So
right. No, that's very valid point. And I mean, but any bodyweight exercises like maybe squats or anything on those lines, or push-ups?
That's what I do. Yeah, with the kettlebells, I do like squats and lunges and and thrusts, and then I do push-ups, and sometimes I do some pull-ups. But that with the injury, there's some challenges with doing pull-ups. But that's I keep it at that. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm coming towards last couple of questions before we open this up for the others, right? I mean, who are watching this podcast. So, what are your future goals with respect to health and anything at all? I mean, if you'd like to share with us, because it's a long journey that you already had, and what is it that is keeping you motivated to go probably take that next step, right? I mean, so what is it that you're looking at?
I actually wanted to share something, but it's on the computer. But I'll there's a presentation. I'll share it post this. Right. But for me now, it's no longer faster, better, further. It is. I actually really enjoy doing challenges, which personal challenges, but are somehow culturally related.
Okay.
I've got an example of this, and it's actually very interesting. That it's because it's just now. It's the time.
Yep.
You all know, or at least the Indian population knows about the Dandi March.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
With Bapu Mahatma Gandhi, which actually he did on the 12th of March to the 4th of April.
Yeah. Right.
I have a friend, also Indian friend, Rajat Sahab, Dr. Rajat Sahab. Yep. He last year he did a virtual Dandi March where you could pay some rupees and join, and then it was virtual, obviously because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then you set your own goal. It was not that you had to do 388 kilometers, but you set your own goal and you strive with it. And there was some, there was a list and you got a certificate. And that's what I wanted to show. I've set myself the goal last year, 100 kilometers running.
Yeah.
Now that was 4 months after the operation.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Okay.
November, operation. Yeah. 12th of March, I start. And I set my goal, 100 kilometers. I did 138 or 9 or something.
Wow.
And that was cool. So goals, I mean, apart from health and longevity, as long as I'm, good, I would like to do an ultra run again and maybe long rides, but something like this. So I've started the Dandi March for myself. Rajat's not arranging it this year, but so I've set my goal and I'll run 25 days.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I can get as far as Bapu got. I don't know, but yeah.
I don't want to boast about what I'm doing, but this is a very great reference, Nick. And I would like to share, right? I mean, like what we're conversing. This is no way in comparison with what you're doing, but I got motivated with Rajat last year, fortunately, and then I did this on my own. I couldn't get myself registered to this event, but I thought of doing it on my own. And I was walking 20 plus kilometers every single day during that time frame till 4th of April. I completed around 500 plus kilometers. So
wow,
amazing. I mean, that was I was really elated going through that particular phase, and I could basically get into spiritually, right? I mean, what let's say Bapu and others at that particular time that they were going through. But that was a great motivational aspect. I mean, I thank Rajat for that, definitely. Only thing is I could not register over there, and it was not a very formal thing. But I keep on doing a lot of informal things just to make sure that I am still connected with some of these aspects which are happening. not again at these kinds of level that you are at, but small little things, whatever that I can contribute, I've been doing that. Yeah, but
Yeah,
great lessons. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that, you know, things like that, and maybe with Rajat, he does this ultra high, you know, there's 55 kilometers, 111 kilometers in Ladakh. He also does 555 kilometers.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I mean, maybe one day, let's see, you know, yeah.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, and you're definitely welcome over here, and do let us know. I mean, if we can join you on that particular expedition, that will be great. So the next aspect is about any top, let's say any top tips for our Indian viewers, like maybe 3 to 5 tips that you have for our audience, typically in India or anywhere. I mean, even for Danish or maybe great your friends, colleagues over here. Any top tips for them?
I honestly think both for endurance sports and for life in general, the most important thing that we have to think about is to become fat adapted. We have to reteach, I'm not saying teach, but reteach our bodies to be able to burn fat like this. And also burn sugar. I mean, if you eat a cake, it can burn the sugar, get rid of it. The insulin goes up and gets rid of it, and then quickly goes back to burning fat.
Yep.
And when I say I have to diverge a little bit, I hope it doesn't take too much time, but when I say relearn, I read somewhere, or I think, and someone correct me if I'm completely wrong, but babies are born as fat adapted machines.
Yes.
They're all born 3 kilos, 3.2 kilos, 3.5 kilos. And everyone knows, if there's any midwives, correct me, they lose 3, 4, 500 grams until the mother starts producing good milk. I mean, and they are really eating. Yes, a lot of it is water. We know that for sure. But they were burning the fat. They had, you know, they were fat.
Yes.
And then they lose like quite a lot of weight percentage-wise because they're burning the fat.
Yep.
And children the same. Very young children, they are never hungry as such, you know, like 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 years old. They're never hungry. They come, all day they're outside.
Right.
They're never hungry.
Yes. Very true.
When we teach them to eat, and I know Indian mothers eat, and eat. Also Greek mothers eat.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes. Yeah.
The body gets used to wanting to eat.
Yeah. No, very true. Yeah, thanks for that, Nick. Anything else? Otherwise, what we'll do is like we'll open this up for others if they have any questions. I think there will be good amount of questions that I'm expecting here. But Shashi, can we open this up for everyone?
Yeah, just the other 2 things I'd like to add, because you did say 3 to 5.
Sure.
The other 2 things is consistency. I mean, rather a little every day than a lot occasionally.
Yes.
And patience. Because
absolutely,
we are always trying to rush things. So dire.
Yeah, dire. Yeah, right. Thanks for adding that. I mean, that was really required, because many times we lose on patience, and people probably are not consistent, and that's what the kind of detrimental factor in terms of they're not able to make any progress as such. Very well said. Yeah.
And the same goes for life. I mean, losing weight or becoming more metabolically healthy. It takes time. It takes time. Yeah. So
right. Yeah. Sure. Cool. Yeah. So can we open this up, Shashi, for everyone?
It's open.
Yeah, open. Okay,
people
sorry.
can unmute themselves and ask questions.
Yeah.
They can unmute, put on their video. The option is open. So anyone wants to ask any question to Nick directly, they can as well ask. Yeah, Sandeep.
One question. Yeah. So, hi Nick. So, just like you of course ran in marathons and all. I run for my own fitness, and I'm also into low carb since last 4 years now. Right. So it's not for me, but for my wife, because she's not low carb, but she's into running in the events and winning the podiums and all that. So she just switched from half marathons to the full. So what would you recommend during on the race day particularly, any specific nutrition advice? Because though she may not bonk, but she does have some cramps in the legs and all
that. But if she's, I'm low carb, so I have no nutrition differences. Whatever I eat today, I'll eat tomorrow, and then on the race day, I'll eat the same. Essentially nothing.
Same for me.
Yeah. But I mean, for her, what can I say? I mean, yeah, the old myth is, it's a myth. It's a carb load. What can I say?
She has stopped carb loading now because I've told her it's useless, because your muscles can only stop only up to a certain level of, glycogen.
Glucose.
So
Yeah.
eating more is not going to help you, more than that.
No.
So that she has stopped, but, eating continuously during the run every 5 kilometers is what some nutritionist has advised her and all that. So I just wanted a clarity on that. No?
I would honestly suggest she goes the other way. She tries to become fat adapted through fasting, through low carb, and then eat less.
Okay.
You also referred to, I think, bone broth. I'm not too sure how many of us in India can do that, but I think that's what I can remember that you mentioned.
Yogesh, we are vegetarians.
No, I know.
Yeah. Oh, you're full vegetarian. Yeah.
Full vegetarian. No eggs at all.
No eggs.
No eggs even. Okay. But
So
also no ghee.
maybe more
butter,
salt.
butter.
Yeah,
More
ghee,
salt.
yes. Lot of ghee. Yes. Salt, yes.
Ghee.
Magnesium.
In fact, before the run, it is 1 teaspoon of salt mixed in water is my everyday affair. Same with my wife, and that has helped her in cramps. So that's very useful.
Magnesium.
Magnesium we take. Magnesium we take.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the only supplement. That's the only supplement that actually we take. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Natural
Anyone
food.
else would like to have any questions for Nick?
Yeah, can I go next?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Hi, Nick. Hello, everyone. Good to meet you all. I was interested in your story, Nick, on the recovery that you had after being on a low carb lifestyle for a while. So the question was, how did you said that because of that lifestyle you recovered better? So how did you conclude that? How was your experience pre that lifestyle and post that lifestyle pertaining to injury recovery?
I don't know. If I understood the question correctly, how do I know that I recovered quicker this time compared to when I was on high carb? I mean, it's not a scientific. What can I say? It's a feeling. But I did have 15 years ago. I had another very bad accident, also bicycle accident. I broke my shoulder blade. In fact, that's why I'm crooked in my shoulder. If you look at my shoulder, it's crooked. But yeah, but that took longer to recover, and it was not as serious as the hip. But I don't know. I just feel I was better, quicker to recover.
Right.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and just a quick follow on. Did you have to do any changes in your diet while you were on injury and on the path to recovery?
No, not at all. And I was fortunate. The hospital I was at here in Denmark, I was hospitalized for 12 days. It was actually very, very good. There was a menu, you could choose food.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I could choose. I didn't want the pasta. I just want the meat, sorry.
Yeah.
Or I want the chicken, and I did not have the rice. Yeah, and you could also pick desserts and pastries and whatever you want. It was very good, yeah.
Amazing.
Super. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Prasanna here. Thanks, Nick, for sharing. It was really informative. One question I have about sports injury: if there is a ACL tear, there is a anterior cruciate ligament tears in the knee? Is there any way, or do you know anybody who has recovered or regained their full strength without surgical intervention or any such sports injuries?
I honestly don't know, but some of us know.
With low carb, with the low carb, yeah. That's.
I don't know, but I would imagine the chances of recovery with low carb are higher. Why? Because there's less inflammation in the body. It's as simple as that. When high carb, there is more inflammation. There, especially if you're also eating vegetable oils, like we know in India is a big thing. Then there is more inflammation in the body. So logically, as an engineer, I would say that the chances are it will take longer. Right. But yeah, I have no first-hand experience. No.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Prasanna. Any other questions we have? We can still take a few questions.
I have a comment.
Yeah,
for
Satish.
cramps, for cramps, like apart from magnesium, those who are getting cramps probably should check for varicose veins. Or some incompetence of venous system has to be checked. As I've seen many of my colleagues here who run and cycle improve wearing compression garments.
Okay.
My comment on this is I really don't know. I've never really used them, but I also know that Indian field workers, no disrespect, they don't wear compression garments, and they work all day on the building as builders or in the fields.
Yeah.
And the same with nomads, and the same as So I don't know.
Okay. I'm a doctor. I keep seeing. I also treat varicose veins, so I have a first-hand knowledge. I have a first-hand knowledge. When you're working on those labor works or something, the amount of injury is different from the kind of rigorous non-stop running we do or cycling. No, there is no rest, and there are many students who are preparing to get their jobs in the armed forces. Many of them, they come to me with varicose veins after intense training. So I do see a lot of cases.
But I think there's a little bit philosophically, it's a little bit, again, the patience. You know, students, they go to the army and they have to get fit because they were very unfit and overweight to begin with.
Yeah, they go to army selection and they get rejected because they have varicose veins.
Okay.
They are youngsters. They have been right from the age of 14 or 15. They start training for long running so that they get selected for the army.
Okay.
Nick, hi, this is Sangeeta.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Sorry, my bandwidth is an issue, which is why my video is off. But thank you for the session. It's been great. I have one question, and I don't know if you can help, but let me ask anyway. So my son is 16, right? And like I keep talking about it on Twitter, he's an aspiring professional cricketer. His daily training regimen is pretty intensive. Let's put it this way. About maybe 4 hours of fitness and running and training in the morning, and in the evening it's a lot of batting and bowling practice. So about 5 to 6 hours of training in a day on an average, and every week it's about 3 days of tournaments, right? Which lasts anywhere from 6 hours to 8 hours. Okay, now that's his level of activity, so to speak. Till a couple of years ago, till he was about 13, 14, you know, he was pretty much on a low carb sort of a diet, obviously following me. But since puberty is hit, and given the fact that, you know, he's obviously growing up, he's now 5'8", suddenly 5'8" and a half. And given this activity level, his consumption of, and he doesn't do junk. It is basic homemade rice, roti, but that is still there. Do you think that is okay for a person with this kind of training and going through puberty, and obviously is growing? Because so he's very lean, very muscular, in a gym routine. But my question is, right now, if I tell him that, you know, kind of drop the carbs a bit, he's ravenously hungry.
Yeah, I think, what can I say again? Pata nahi. My advice is ask Professor Tim Noakes, because he also is a cricket enthusiast. I've played cricket. So I know, I mean, yes, he's very, very, very athletic, but cricket even at that level of tournaments for 5-6 hours, it's not all intensive. It is not all intensive. There is the bowling and the batting, yes, is intensive.
Yeah.
So I think he could get away with minimum carbs. Now there is him, and there's someone called Peter Duffy as well. Peter Duffy has developed something called strategic carbs that you take carbs at a specific time. For example, and I don't know if this is true, but this is, I mean, it could be true. It could also be bullshit. Who knows? The cyclists that are winning the Tour de France, they are, some of them, Froome and stuff, have gone very low carb, and they eat strategic carbs.
Okay.
So they have very little carbs during the whole day, but when they have to go up the last hill, they make a difference. So they have a strategic carb, whatever it is. Now, the reason I'm saying is this could be true, it could be untrue, is that these elite athletes, they don't share their secrets. They don't.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Of course not.
Yeah.
But it could be true.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, so, yeah.
now what I think is, when I started taking gels, for example, sport gels, when they were developed in the late 80s or the early 90s for me, it did give me a kick, of course. But then I took 2, because then I get 2 kicks. Then all of a sudden I was dependent on them.
Yeah.
Right.
So when is it strategic, and when does it become just normal thing? You just have a gel. I have gels everywhere.
Yep.
Right. No, so thankfully, in the case of my son, he's not dependent on energy drinks and sport drinks and isotonics, and that is great. He eats real food, but I don't know if it is this training that he's doing, and the fact that it's puberty, right? I don't know if that's causing the hunger. While I focus on the protein with him, eggs and chicken and meat and all of that, I'm unable to bring his carbs to a level where I am comfortable. Let's put it that way. But I kind of get where you're coming from. I'll need to talk to somebody who's who can probably help. And I don't know at this stage if it's that harmful for him, or should I slowly transition? These are the questions I really have in my head.
Yeah. I don't think it's, I mean, remember these kids are burning so much. So I don't think it is that harmful. It is, as I said before, later in life, and later in life for us, you start putting on 0.5 kilo every year. But the problem is, in India, look around in India, kids are 5 and 6 and 8, and they're also putting 1 kilo on every year.
Oh, that's right. Child obesity.
So by the time they're 15, they are overweight. They are in fact maybe obese, pre-diabetic. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
thank you for that, Nick.
Thanks, Sangeeta.
Thank you.
Any other questions we have? Probably 1 or 2 last, otherwise. Yeah, Bhaskar.
Am I audible? Yeah. I'm not sure if you can see me.
I have to say namaskar. He's Bengali.
Namaskar.
Yeah. Hi. So my question is regarding fasting. You spoke something about fasting. So myself and my wife, we have been trying to do intermittent fasting for some time, on and off. But we are sometimes confused whether this is something which is sustainable or which should be continued over a long period of time. And also, like, is it a better approach to do intermittent fasting, or give like once a week fasting, some kind of that approach? So what are your views on this?
I mean, my views are based on generations. Look at the Muslims. Look at also the Indian population that have fasted for so many generations. Christians also fast up to Easter and stuff. So it is not harmful. It is definitely not harmful. No. Now, to go to 24 hours or more, okay, there's a balance. I've only done up to 20. I think I did 36 hours once, but also exercising, maybe doing 10-kilometer run or 20-kilometer run. But I don't think it's harmful in any way at all. The benefits, on the other hand, are immense. There is this autophagy, it's called. It's actually a Greek word, where when you fasted for 20 hours or 24 hours, I think there's just some threshold. Then you've depleted your body for the glucose, and then the body cells start eating old cells as part of it's a natural process. So it is like a detoxification. I don't want to sound too conspiracy theory like, but that happens as a natural part of our body. So old damaged cells start being eaten and disposed of, and that is another benefit of fasting. So I don't see any detriments.
I think Nick, Dr. Jason Fung talks a lot about the concept of autophagy, as you mentioned. And to add, if I may, the other way of actually kickstarting autophagy, one is, of course, fast longer than a single day. And you rightly said, there is a certain threshold of about 30 hours, in some people 36 hours, depending upon your metabolism. But what also happens is when you are, say, fasted instead, if you're following, say, an 18-6 kind of a schedule, which is typically what I follow, and then when you work out in that fasted state is also when you kickstart the process of autophagy, and also the increase of the the human growth hormone. So these are the two bits of pieces where Dr. Jason Fung talks about it quite a bit in his podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Sangeeta, for adding. I think going back to what Nick was referring to, and this is the question that was posed by Bhaskar. So most of the cultures and faith around the world, they have this baked into their system, right? Fasting. So in addition to what Nick mentioned, I think Judaism, Jainism, right? I mean, you name it. And even most of the faiths in India, I think we do have this every fortnight kind of a fast, right? Only thing is we probably have forgotten about those kinds of things. And there is a lot of fear factor that is being induced to the experts that you have to be eating every 3-4 hours, which is extremely detrimental to our health. Anyway, sorry. But that was a very right point made by Nick as well as Sangeeta as such. So thank you. Any other questions anyone has?
I'll just add to Vashka. Vashka, I'll bring the books to the office. The books that Sangeeta was referring to, Dr. Jason Fung, he's written 3 very, very, very good books. I'll bring them to the office.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. So any other questions anyone has? Otherwise, we can possibly close the session. Okay, so thanks, Nick. It was wonderful hosting you today. Very valuable piece of information that we have got to understand. And this is really something I would say rare, even across continents, that people are still continuing on high carb, and who are typically be it enthusiasts or pro runners, they're still having a lot of carb loading. And this is a great testimony that what you have mentioned. I mean, even probably if I'm not too sure if you're thinking of, let's say, penning it down, writing a book around this, that would be really, really helpful to a lot of people. But I think for now, your short bit of experiences, I think you have captured in that PPT. We can put that on, let's say, DLife handle, your handle, and I would request everyone to be going to that and then referring to that, because it's a wonderful piece of information. And beyond what we already have discussed, a lot that is there in that particular small presentation, but you can definitely get to understand a little more that we probably could not have covered over there. But anything else? Otherwise, I mean, thanks again. It's wonderful. Dhanyawad, Nick. And I would definitely, all of us would like to have you over here in India and basically interact with you whenever you're possibly here. In your next.
I will come. I'm coming. First of all, I'm coming either business trip or actually a holiday trip. But let's see, with all this COVID and all this.
Yeah, I know.
In Bengalis, they say Haja Barala. There's too much Haja Barala going on.
Right. Shashi, you'd like to add anything before we close?
Sorry, I was on mute. So Nick, thank you very much for accepting this invitation. I think we had a different sort of session today, and a different topic compared to what we usually have. And we got a lot of insights, and probably we are going to benefit more and more now that we see that low carb works very well even in sports, and which you have proved amply. Though it could be N:1, people may say that it is just another, but nevertheless it is there, and we have seen N equals many actually. Many of them actually follow very, very successfully. So thank you. Thanks, Nick.
I would like to thank you guys very much. I think it's been fun, and it's been informative also for me. And yeah, it's good, and I'm glad I've had this opportunity to share some of my my thoughts on it and experiences. So yes, I'll do the PPT and we'll share it. Yeah.
So again, thanks a lot, Dhanyavad, Nick, and we'll close the call for now. We'll stop the recording as well. And thanks everyone for joining and giving a patient hearing to this particular. I hope everyone has got benefited in one way or the other. Thanks a lot. Thanks.